Good morning. It's Tuesday, December 16th. National Chocolate Covered Anything Day. Strawberries, oranges, pencils, anything. And now, the news. Starting with a very important update on the shooting that took place on Saturday at Brown University that claimed the lives of 2 students and wounded 9 others. In yesterday's episode, I noted that a person of interest, 24-year-old Benjamin Erickson, had been taken into custody but had not been charged. After I recorded that episode, Erickson, who again was never charged, was released. This now leaves the community back at square one without a suspect. Part of the problem is that the engineering building where the shooting took place doesn't have a lot of cameras. However, on Monday, authorities did say that there is grainy footage of the gunman walking away from the attack. So they don't have a ton of video, they don't have a suspect, or at least a suspect that they are naming, and like I said, it does feel like they are back to square one. Ideally, by the time that you see this, that will be outdated and there will be some information. Because for now, we're talking about a community and a campus without answers. But, and I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but it is just the truth, a mass shooter still on the loose. As we head into the holiday hiatus, we've got a few things to keep an eye on. One of them being, of course, the healthcare bill. As a reminder, the reason that a few months ago the entire government shut down was because the big, beautiful bill, mortifyingly, history will remind us forever that that is, in fact, the real name of the bill, cut off healthcare for more than 20 million Americans. Republicans were fine with it, and Democrats were not, so they voted down the budget over the fight for healthcare. In this instance, Democrats, for once, held all the cards. And then, after 43 days, the Democrats came back with this truly astounding deal. What if we reopen the government on the promise that, in December, Republicans promised to vote on healthcare? And Republicans were like, are you serious? Yes. Quickly sign this piece of paper before you realize that this is a crazy mistake. So the government was reopened on a promise that the Republicans, who have hated Affordable Care Act since it was called Obamacare and they realized it was named after a black man, but have never, in the years that they've had to try, come up with a backup plan, would somehow in a month magically have a solution. The lack of a healthcare plan is one of the reasons that Marjorie Taylor Greene backed away from MAGA, that and the protection of pedophiles. She was very clear in noting that Republicans do not have an alternative. And Democrats were still like, that's okay. We're going to vote on it in December. And even though we don't have the majority anywhere, based on just like vibes, our guts, our tum-tums tell us that this is the right move. Well, it's December, and you'll be shocked to hear it's not going well. Last week, healthcare bills in the Senate failed to advance, and now it is over to the House, where the fate of 20 million Americans' healthcare relies on Mike Johnson, the guy whose name sounds like a Simpsons prank call to Moe's. Yeah, we're okay. On Friday, House Republicans released their own healthcare plan that does not extend ACA tax subsidies. This is huge because without those subsidies, healthcare prices will double for millions of Americans, meaning that they will not be able to afford it. For the record, the Senate Democrats' plan was to just extend these subsidies for 3 years. It didn't create new ones. It didn't do anything. All it did was extend exactly what is currently in play for 3 years. And it was joined by a handful of Republicans, but it did not pass the 60 vote threshold needed. So that is where things stand right now. We'll see what the week brings. Of course, the other thing that we're keeping an eye on this week is the December 19th deadline for the Department of Justice to release the Epstein files, a deadline set in the Epstein Files Transparency Act. On Friday, the House Oversight Committee released a small batch of photos that come from a batch of 95,000 that are still being reviewed. Those include photos of Epstein with Trump, as well as Epstein with former President Bill Clinton, plus Bill Gates, Steve Bannon, and Woody Allen. And it is very funny on TikTok to watch people try and use Bill Clinton as like a gotcha. Like, if you're mad, you can't be mad about Trump because Bill Clinton was there. We knew. I don't mean to blow anyone's mind here, but most normal people don't really care about political leanings when it comes to sex crimes. We firmly believe that if someone is accused of sex crimes, they should be investigated to the fullest extent, and then we'll go from there. No normal person is going to stop and first ask, okay, hang on, what are their thoughts on Indiana gerrymandering? Because if they agree with me, maybe we'll let this abhorrent crime slide. That's not what a lot of us are thinking, but it sure seems like some people that like Trump are thinking that based on their reaction to Bill Clinton being seen in these photos. Anyway, that is something we're keeping an eye on. The 19th is a Friday. That is usually after I'm done recording for the week. And it was after I was planning on being done for the year. So that's very rude as far as timing goes. But we'll see what I end up doing as far as all of this when it comes out. Obviously, this seems like something that I'm not going to wait to talk about. Probably record a special episode, unfortunately. I'm not, it's okay. And in Brentwood, California, Sunday came with the shocking news that Rob Reiner, as well as his wife, Michele Singer Reiner, were murdered. That sentence feels very fake. That feels like a fake sentence to read out loud. It felt fake to write, but reading it also felt fake. Rob Reiner's son, Nick, has been taken into custody where he is being held on a $4 million bond. There are stories floating around about what happened leading up to the murders, but the family has asked for privacy, and frankly, since none of those conversations help in an active investigation as far as searching for a suspect, I don't really see the merit of me sharing those rumors here on the show, so I'm not going to. Incredibly, Trump decided to post about this absolutely horrific news and say that Reiner died, quote, due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS, end quote. He goes on from there. I mean, I realize he exists, but this is really beyond. Even Republicans pushed back against what he said, which I note because in addition to being one of the most celebrated filmmakers in Hollywood, Reiner was also known for his incredible advocacy work. And while what would have been better is if Trump never said anything, actually what would have been best, obviously, is if this whole horrible story didn't exist. But I think it is particularly fitting that this has prompted Republicans, including some who rarely disagree with Trump in public, to criticize him because of this message. Here is a very sweet story about Rob Reiner and his wife. The original ending of When Harry Met Sally had them parting ways on the street. However, Rob met Michele while he was making the movie. He had been single for 10 years, and he didn't think that he would ever meet or fall in love with anybody ever again. So he didn't see how he could make a movie where the two romantic leads ended up together. But after he met Michele, he went back to Nora Ephron and they rewrote the ending together. One of the best romantic comedy speeches, the one that goes, when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible. That is owed to Rob Reiner and Michele Singer Reiner. There is no limit to the mark that this man made on film, television, or just Los Angeles. The world was better with him in it, and it is just a little darker without him. As I often do, I wanted to give Rob Reiner the last word. Quote, everybody talks about wanting to change things and help and fix, but ultimately, all you can do is fix yourself. And that's a lot. Because if you can fix yourself, it has a ripple effect. And that's it. That's the news. I'm proud of anyone who tries to put more good than bad into the world, who looks at it as it is, has notes, and then tries to put just a little bit more good out there. A little more comedy, a little more heart, a little more possibility for betterment. Also, the movie Sleepless in Seattle. It is perfection. I would dip that movie into chocolate and it would not be made better because you cannot improve upon perfection, and also because dipping a movie into chocolate is nothing. It's just a mess. But more than dipping a DVD into chocolate, because you're not a mess, and also you do serve a purpose, and also because you are the good that is more good than bad in this world. I'm proud of you.